capitalism, all of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number, or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know,
It's
Zach.
a tough one. I
It's
know,
really hard.
and maybe
Yes.
comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. I'm your host, Zach. Joining me once again is Dan Platt of the Albany Green Party. How you doing tonight, Dan?
I'm good.
Nice.
Ready to go.
I should mention this is our 40th episode of this particular left field. So, hey, a little bit of a milestone.
We made it. We're ready to have our midlife crisis.
I think I will settle that. So yeah, what's on your mind lately, Dan? How have things been?
Fake Labor Day just happened.
Yeah.
I did household chores as someone who actually gets a day off. On Sunday, I did table a community event, which was a giveaway of school supplies, community barbecue, just give out food. There was a bunch of Enamins, which is a regional brand of snack cakes. You can
Sure.
I'll put it that way. I don't like Enamins anymore. Actually, I barely liked them as a youth. So, but whatever, they're there. And they're too much money for what you get, quality wise. It's like I could spend the same amount and get the grocery store baked goods, which will be fresher, and because these are the kinds of donuts and muffins that are just spongy, preservative,
sealed in chocolate wax
modules.
Yeah.
But it was so it wasn't like a political event or anything. There weren't actually a lot of community groups there, although technically all of them were community groups in a way. But what I mean is there were no like accessory political groups tabling.
Sure.
There wasn't a lot of other tablers there because a lot of these community events. So it's definitely the difference between different social or economic classes, particularly economic. But like when you have these events, these festivals that are actually geared towards working class or poor, people don't actually hang out. Like there's stuff there to do or to get, but once you get those things, once you pick up the food and pick up the supplies and
Sure.
chat with people, you're done. So no one's like there for more than an hour. And although the food line was continuously like had people on the food line for over an hour, so it's not like there was a lacking of people showing up. And there was also like a b-ball game tournament across the street.
Okay.
And this is the point, was to have 3 events at the same time to maximize the number of people coming by. But even when you have quite a number of people, like hundreds and hundreds of people, no one's really hanging out. So it doesn't feel as lively as when it's say in Albany, the Upper Madison Street Fair, because you'll have a bunch of community and nonprofit groups as well as people selling stuff and food trucks and other things like that. Like when people have money in their pocket and they're shopping, it somehow seems more lively because like people just be there to be there.
Sure.
Like a mall.
Yeah.
But when it's a community event, people just kind of come through and they got something else to go to, or they got somewhere else they got to be, or it's sort of,
So there's no live music or entertainment of any kind?
There was, but it becomes something in the background, the DJ, and they had some rappers perform, local people, but not for very long. It's not like you have a full band. So I think the difference is, again, because it's the budget. You don't have the money to hire a band. So when it's like a festival with vendors and people go there to spend money, you have a stage with free music, but it's free with a corporate sponsor. This doesn't have such sponsors, or the main underlying org was, they're called like, okay, I'm blanking on the name, but they provide like birth services, and they actually used birthing person. It was the first time I'd heard it in public. They said, we help birth, people who be birthing people to, with the care they need, and supplies and stuff.
Good thing Anna Kasparian was not there. She would have lost her shit.
Yeah, right. But nobody complained or noticed, but that's,
well, who would? Who is going to make a big deal of
but that's the reality. People are there to just pick up their fish fry dinner and the school supplies, but not so much. But there was like lemonade that ran out, free lemonades. But this is what pulled away someone who was signing up, and he did put his email down, but before he could finish putting more down, they announced 2 left, only 2 left. He's like, oh shit, I gotta go take that. And so I'm like, God damn it. Almost had him with I didn't even get his name. Hopefully his email, even though it was the kind of thing where it's kind of cursive. So I'm like, oh no. God damn it. I really hope that it's just what it is there. 3 words put together. Because sometimes the @ symbol will look like someone put an E on something.
Sure.
But the fact that we had signups too, and people donated some cash when I gave my pitch, there was interest. No deep conversation was being had, but literally because everyone there is at level 1, where they have a class consciousness of sorts. They just need political education, or they just need to know first whether we exist, and then they check us out, and then maybe they'll think about doing more.
Sure.
And seeing us as a political home or as something. So my pitch was pretty good. I think it was working. So I'll write it up more directly as a guide for people to table, as well as a kind of guide to table. I think there's a lacking in guides for actually doing that on the ground organizing. So many books are about social movements, and they just ignore organizing. And I think this is something that Marxists will kind of complain about social movement theory, or the kinds of political theories we've had since the 80s and 90s that have all been about social movements. So, but it's like they didn't come out of nowhere, or when they actually accomplish things, it's because there was organizing that then turned that energy into political power. Because marching in the streets is not political power in itself. Or it becomes voting for the Dems, which is, when such accounts are posting the marches they're holding against Trump. Like, great. So when Trump dies, what, it'll be fine then. All of the imperial presidency and everything that
Let's go back to brunch.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got a number of cool videos. Would you like to pick up where we left off with Mr.
More of that NIMBY one?
Yeah. No, it's leftist NIMBYs, yes.
Leftist NIMBYs.
I got through my thesis, so we'll just move forward with the hilarity.
Nice.
Or with whatever you want to bounce off of.
You can also
sounds good.
Oh yeah, we left. So where we left off, for those who only watching this one, the salesman voice of the Urbanity was going through leftist NIMBYism. He doesn't understand anti-capitalist ideology or leftism, and generally, and this is something that I was coming upon with certain conversations that are being had with NIMBY versus NIMBY, leftist NIMBYs, and versus the abundance agenda, because it's being framed in that way. It's like, oh, these leftist NIMBYs, they're against the abundance agenda. They don't want things to be built. well, we don't want capitalists to build things. But it's sort of a capitalist realist thing where capitalists are the people who build things, or individuals, I guess, with capital. And what government does, like what the public does, when we use we aren't building housing, or blue states aren't building housing. The rhetoric is the meaning is they're not allowing. We aren't allowing housing to be built. Blue states are not allowing, like government is not allowing capitalists to build housing, or something like that. But we is used like very often in these conversations, and it's kind of annoying, really, to use these pronouns when we really need to be referring to classes of people,
right?
Because it's like, well, who? Because it's the choices are capitalists, the state, or community ownership structures that somehow will not be well capitalized, but could possibly have access to capital, or we have to expropriate that capital. Sure. So that's choice. That's the third way between state building and capitalist building. And the question is, do we allow housing, but we only allow it when it's state building? And that's sort of like where social democrats are at. Not even. Social democrats just want to allow capitalists to build housing, but with caveats.
Yes.
Or do it in certain areas, which is where we get to blue states aren't allowing enough housing to build. Because the thing is, certain commentators, libs, left libs, whatever, even socialists, can, or anyone, if someone is on and on about the makeup of Congress and the fight over redistricting and whatever, and knowing that New York and California may lose more congressional seats. Mm-hmm. And it's because we're not building enough housing, so more people are moving to Florida and Texas. Now, that's a real simplification, because
what a stretch that is, yeah.
Florida isn't really growing anymore, and Texas, particularly Austin, is growing. Certain parts of Texas are growing. But again, it's like, because it's easy to build in places it doesn't snow or rain.
Right.
It's easy to, but then when it does get cold, the housing falls apart.
Oh, it crumbles immediately. Infrastructure goes.
It crumbles. Yeah. So of course they're building more, but who's they? Capitalists, and they're building single family houses. Mm-hmm. Right. It's not all fucking dense in Dallas.
Nope.
Which is so these conversations get real jumbled up, and that is partly what's happening here in this video. He's kind of jumbling a bunch of things together.
Indeed, yeah. So he's I seem to remember he was saying how, well, what's the alternative if you only build affordable housing? People have a lottery, and our rejoinders are basically, why not just build more then? So build more public housing. Like that's a very simple solution.
His thesis is that if you don't let the market allocate resources, then you're left with bread lines.
Yes.
And but really what we argue, in which he doesn't get or present properly or honestly, is that we want to allocate based on need. Mm-hmm. The market will allocate based on who holds capital.
Right.
So it's still a allocation of scarce resources. It is simply a matter of how you do it. So he is doing a fallacy of sorts, but maybe it isn't a fallacy. It's the reality when you do things the social democratic way, where only the uber rich will be able to have housing. Well, I that's where his chart is sort of just not
right.
Doesn't make sense,
because it has no plan for the people that then can't afford it. It's, I guess they're still waiting in those bread lines. So
yeah, or the housing lottery,
the
housing lottery for people who, and this is the way it worked in Soviet Russia, was you had a home, you're in a lottery or a waiting list to get a better home. And so the caveat here is the whining of the complaint of the leftist, hypothetical system is that the middle class will have to wait because they're not destitute. And that's the waiting or being deprived of moving up and getting something better is a crime against humanity. But it's really the price the middle has to pay for the bottom third not being homeless.
Yeah.
Or housing insecure in the first place.
That's a fair trade. And, all the pearl clutching that people do about just seeing homeless people around.
Yeah.
You'd think they want a solution that would permanently help them get off the streets.
So like and one more that's hitting me, that the guy over the Urbanity, I don't know if he ever tells his name, but he's like, he was on a waiting list in Toronto for a co-op, and the waiting was taking too long because it was like 2 years.
Right.
So he had to move to Montreal. But but I will rephrase that as, no, you got to move to Montreal. Like, you had the option of moving to Montreal, another huge city that's just as good, if not better, than Toronto. So what the fuck is he complaining about?
Yeah, I've never heard bad things about Montreal. So yeah, it seems like a pretty petty complaint. But
that's what it comes off as to me. Yeah.
All right, let's actually see if we can get into it a little more.
So allocate below market housing by lottery or by connections. That's how we got our co-op sublet, knowing someone in the co-op who was traveling for a year. It's also by knowing people that you can transfer or inherit old rent-controlled units in many cities. You also hear about mandated affordable units and new projects going to developers' friends or family. Another option is discrimination. Sometimes it's sympathetic.
That's totally a leftist. What is it? Run-on effect.
Right.
That's our fault.
Doing favors for each other because of all the leftist housing builders, I guess. Like, okay.
Well, it's just lumping in the affordable housing requirements in capitalist buildings.
Yeah.
Is that's a leftist policy, and I hate that being tied to us. It shouldn't be.
So again, the solution would be not allowing these builders to decide who gets any of the units if they're affordable. Why is the government not taking over anyway and being like, okay, we're going to put you in this house because you're on the waiting list?
That's not in the Overton. Sense. It's not in the Overton window yet.
Oh man. Well, continuing on.
People in need, low-income tenants, terminally ill people, victims of domestic abuse. But it can also be harmful, like a Montreal co-op accused of rejecting a single mother because they wanted a traditional family. Discrimination in housing is much easier when you have a lot of applicants for one place. Finally, below-market housing can be allocated by bribery. In New York City, people can pay illegal key money to get rent-stabilized apartments. In a famous case,
Okay, so he's making another argument that the supposed enforced scarcity of the left is causing a black market for quality housing. And I mean, again, just the answer is so simple. So do more of it. Have more
housing. Rent controls.
Right? Do more rent control. It's
only because rent control apartments have been dwindling. It's like basically any kind of rentier behavior, which is to limit the supply of something, whether it be government, the permits, of any kind, and then those permits will become a commodity that gets, there'll be corruption around it, and that goes in the private sector too. It's not just a government thing.
Yeah, of course, because again, he's describing the current model, so it's not as though we're in a full socialist model of housing.
But these things are kind of taken for granted as like a human nature thing. So it's
never get around it.
It's
just human nature. Yeah. Okay.
So he's not. Yeah. I think he said that in a different video.
I'm sure.
Journalists paid $24,000 in 1980 to move into a permanently cheap apartment in this building in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Left NIMBYism treats prices as a trick, a mirage of capitalism, rather than a reflection of an underlying material reality.
I mean, when housing is a commodity, it is, of course, it's a mirage. It's you're creating an artificial scarcity. That means that there's less. I mean, there's more stock than is being let into the market, and people are just sitting on things to grow their investment. So yeah, it is a trick. It's for scarcity of something that people need to live in order to make money. So yeah,
it's making capitalists invisible. I mean, it's
Right.
sort of odd. I made this point in a TikTok about how like conversations like these make capitalists like not invisible, like they're not mentioned, they're or taken for granted. And I have to look at my phone actually. So why don't we continue and I'll
Sure.
circle back
Sure
around to what the comment was, because it was actually like kind of like, well, I have to think about how I would respond to that kind of thing.
If we can just take a hammer and smash those prices down, we fix the problem. But unless you fix the underlying supply imbalance, all you've done is replace high prices with long wait lists.
And again, as long as the housing is a commodity, then to a certain extent, it doesn't matter how much you build if it's just being sat on for a better price and not actually occupied. So, okay, that doesn't solve the scarcity problem either.
Okay.
Bribery, or
hold on.
You got it now?
Yeah, so just a really short like hater comment. David Boys, if capitalists were invisible, you wouldn't even have a downtown. Like he is equating me saying that capitalists are made invisible with they don't exist. I'm like, well, no, of course they exist, but it's like they're taken for
granted.
That's so he didn't make a good point. He didn't make a good point at all. He was just willfully, just a hater comment, which is most TikTok comments actually, where they just don't understand what I'm saying, which is interesting because they could just phrase it as a hater question. Like, how could you say that? What do you mean by that? They could at least do that, and then I can make another video. But I didn't have. There's no way of answering that. Of just like, what do you? You're misunderstanding. It's like they're invisible in the conversation because we act like things are funded by the market, like by the hand itself, by the ghost of the market.
Right.
That's what chooses to fund things, not capitalists, not people,
right?
Not a class of people. And the same goes for housing production.
Mm-hmm.
That housing is a commodity just cause, and there happens to be people who take advantage of that and make money by building housing. As if that our legal system isn't set up to make that the default.
Right.
It's not the default because of natural law.
Legal system and the banking system along with it, which has all been influenced by the capitalist class. So
read your marks. Okay.
All right, moving on.
Needing to know the right person, and some people will still be excluded. The article was wrong to deny that market supply is a major determinant of prices, directly contradicted by its own.
I wish getting a good career in good housing was just about knowing the right person. Because I know people, and I've known the right people sometimes, but it's usually a matter of, well, I can't hire you. The market doesn't allow it, or the housing isn't available. The market's not right. It's a fucking market. That's why I'm anti-capitalist. God damn it! It's not because of I didn't know the right person. I wish it was that was the case, because then social capital would matter more than finance capital.
Sure. But I mean, at the same time, you see the upper class. For them, basically, it is my daddy owned the business, my daddy's friend owned the business,
right?
So then I get in on the ground floor,
right?
But yeah, that
But this also makes
knowing people not quite enough.
That's what makes capitalists look like a family thing, and it's just like then it becomes they know the right people or they're born to the right people, and it's not a matter of class dynamics and social reproduction on that part.
Yeah, that's fair.
And superstructure,
for sure.
Citation. But it's correct that taking housing off the market can help affordability. Almost by definition, below market prices are below the market prices, whether rented out at cost or subsidized below.
He talks so fast that it's... He said taking housing... First he said taking housing off the market lowers prices, and then he's talking about trying to sell at below market prices. Those are two very different things.
Well, his argument is that when leftists say that when we decommodify, we're making housing affordable, he's like, well, of course, dummies.
Oh, that's what
you're
he means
not
by
doing
taking
it for
off the market.
You're not doing it for profit. So yeah, it'll be below market costs.
I see.
So it's like, yeah, exactly. So let's do more of that. But the realist point of view is you can't do that. You can't make all housing below market rate by taking it off the market. It's like, you can't do that. Too much of the economy is built upon making money off of housing. If we don't have profit generation and accumulation, then everything falls apart. And in some ways, it's kind of true. But that's sort of where the revolutionary fervor comes in, where it's like, yeah, we have to overturn everything. Because if you don't, you can't just pick at it, because everything in our system
connected to everything else.
Depends on everything else.
Yeah.
You can't decommodify housing alone. You have to decommodify energy. You have to do it with labor. Otherwise, you end up with the new economic program, I guess, and that's very controversial.
That's fair. And thanks for the follow, Juliet12. Hope you're enjoying the show so far.
Low cost. But will it be accessible? Can you easily get an apartment if you're new to the city? Or if you want to upsize or downsize for family reasons, like having kids or your kids moving out? With an average monthly rent of €750.
That's the argument of marketeers, by the way, that being in a market allows for choice and flexibility. And when things are planned, you don't have that. But our counter is you can plan in to have a surplus so that there's some flexibility.
Right. And aside from that, like, the market always has to tack to what is most profitable. So what's profitable is not always going to be what's flexible. In fact, I mean, if you look at the cookie cutter developments in any downtown, they're about the same thing. You have, single person flats, and you have 1-bedroom flats, and then a smattering of 2 and 3
bedroom.
But they're all about the same square footage. They pretty much all have the same size balcony hanging off the side. They have the same, amenities, quote unquote.
There seems to be something that the city councilor in LA mentioned that actually kind of took me not totally off guard, but it was just one of those things where the housing market or the middle class has this prediction of requiring new housing to include washer dryers in every unit.
Sure.
No shared laundry. And I'm like, well, that's what makes the housing cost more. And it's also not efficient, because that's a lot of appliances that most people only use once a week.
Right.
And literally, like in the shared housing, like you can have one washer dryer can serve 15 people.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
That's my and maybe you have a 1.5 for good measure. Right. Like we had 2 washer dryers for a building that served 30 people.
Sure.
And rarely did anyone have to wait. Like they would just take turns in various days, because they didn't have stable everyone. And it matters that everyone didn't have the same schedule. Right. And that's also the case with students. So it works with students. I guess it doesn't work if everyone has they're all 9-to-5 workers. So it's like if everyone's trying to do their laundry in the evening, maybe there'll be some waiting happening. It's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in places where it mostly was working people, and bank of 4 8 washer dryer sets. It served a place of like 30 units or whatever, just fine. Although I will say that I have also seen that again the profit motive comes in and screws with this sort of a setup, because they will get the cheapest washer and dryers in there. Oftentimes the landlord doesn't even own the infrastructure. They've had some contract with an outside service that's grandfathered in for eternity. But yeah, they have an incentive to get the cheapest crap and then just
and they put
really quickly when it breaks.
It was in the building in in West Harlem, where they were in the basement, and it wasn't pleasant down there, but and they were coin operated.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I forget actually. Was it coin operated? I don't remember having to spend a lot of money on the laundry or whatever, but maybe I did it so seldomly it didn't matter.
Right. But like again, if you're having the local municipality take over, you can set higher standards for all of this stuff. You can have modern facilities, modern utilities, all this sort of thing. And just because you're not having to worry then about the profit motive, you can do it and provide for people that need it.
And on the question of financing, the first reform is public banking. You do that, then it makes everything else possible. If you try to do anything else first, then you're using tax money, and the tax money comes from economic growth, capitalist economic growth.
Right.
With public banking, you can build things not based on growth. You can just fund things that will get some return, or at least things don't have to grow to pay things off.
Right. Have we ever covered public banking before?
We could do that next.
I feel like that'd be an interesting one to cover.
There isn't
something that I don't know much about.
There aren't a lot of good. Well, I'll do some digging and see if there's some good videos. Otherwise, we may just have to read something.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, heaven forbid.
Because I need to figure out how to do it on a regional level, because we're not. I mean, unless we really push for public banking in New York, but that's, as far as I know, Green Party is the only group that even listed as a platform plank. And but so many other groups will change their platform based on like expediency.
Sure.
Election reform groups, for example.
Oh, sure. All right, let's get back into the video. So here he's saying average monthly rent is $900. Where? I wonder where this is.
Talking about Vienna.
Vienna. Okay.
Or, yeah.
I assume he's then holding it up as a model.
Well, you could go back 10 seconds.
All right, we'll do that.
Get an apartment if you're new to the city, or if you want to upsize or downsize for family reasons, like having kids or your kids moving out. With an average monthly rent of 750 euros or $900, rent-controlled apartments in Stockholm are affordable. With an average wait time of 10 years to get one, they're definitely not accessible. Here's a database of 185 nonprofit housing co-ops in Toronto. No vacancy, no vacancy, no vacancy, no vacancy. Okay, let's filter for vacancy. 0 co-ops found. Even a waitlist? 0 currently found. Why not just build a lot more nonprofit
let's
housing
see what
co-ops?
he says.
He's getting
Setting
around.
aside,
He's getting around the straw man he just built up. That leftist policy is to do what there is a scarcity of.
Yeah.
Which is rent control apartments or co-ops.
But
no, so there's not enough of them to be effective.
Yeah, let's see how he wiggles.
Why don't we build more? Let's hear his lovely logic.
funding, you need to change zoning to allow all that housing.
Oh, you need to change zoning. Well, that's impossible.
We can't change laws, Zach. Can't change
Especially
the laws.
if the government's doing it. Who can't possibly change the laws at the same
Can't
time.
change laws.
So you can't just do like planned unit developments and then just throw all the zoning rule back out the window.
We can change the laws to make it easier for capitalists to build, but we cannot change the laws to make it easier for the state or co-ops to build.
It's just
that is too far, Zach. What cost?
I was really hoping he was going to say something that would at least give me pause here, but it's not to be.
He's not. You don't give him too much credit. Don't give him that credit.
Oh, that's pretty
You'd
good.
have to change the laws. That's the thing. It's the obstacles just by existing.
They're insurmountable.
Make it a Flanders parents type of exchange. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas. Or like, well, we can't do that. That would require doing stuff.
You're right. Whew. It's like,
why don't we just let capitalists do their thing? Then we don't have to worry at all.
We can just your problem outsourced to the private sector. That's right.
Not all, but a lot of left NIMBYism is tied up in not wanting too much change, height, or density, though. Vancouver is considering upzoning for more nonprofit housing, including allowing an impressive 15 to 20...
To the left. It's that we don't like change. That's what... If that isn't the only thing... But see, in the brain rot world where the left could be as authoritarian as the right, or we're just like a different flavor of like maniac,
or just conflating liberals with leftists, like whoops.
That too. Yeah. Liberals do not want things to change, and that's what he's really doing. I think we could boil that down.
Yeah, I'd say probably safe in that assumption.
Stories in these purple areas by default. That would speed up projects and allow more units. I love it, but a lot of people appealed to left NIMBYism, the language of inclusion, affordability, and concern for residents of the buildings, to oppose it. That's too tall. Living above floor 6 or 8 is bad for people. It allows mixed income...
When liberals use the language of inclusion or accessibility or social justice, they don't actually mean it.
Yeah.
There's your heuristic. When liberals use leftist rhetoric, they don't actually believe it.
No.
Just like ContraPoints or any other liberal.
Like, I believe it, but for them. Don't do it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
The right can do it too. They can appropriate leftist rhetoric, but they don't actually believe it.
It's about the only place they get their talking points.
So you have to take people at face value, and then when it is people who are being genuine, you don't take them at their word.
Right.
But you take others being fake at their word. So it's the double.
You can't win.
Yeah.
Projects rather than only 100% below market. It allows high ceilings, which is excessive, unaffordable, and adds up to make the buildings too tall. Our Toronto co-op was a high-rise, though, and knowing the buildings...
high ceilings raise heating bills, and that can make it unaffordable.
But, like, I mean, even if these are legitimate concerns... and
he's making it a straw man, though. It's just about the height of the building.
Like, how are high ceilings going to be the deal breaker for the entire project? How are any of these things going to mean that you just can't do the project?
Yeah. And if you're going off of like Twitter comments, like, oh yes,
the real voice, pulling it from
the voice of the left, the voice of, he's pulling it off of next door.
Oh, I'm sure.
Lefties who
crank app there
people identify as lefties who could be anyone.
Could just be right-wing trolls who love to sow chaos.
And they on 4chan they say, let's go online, pretend to be leftists to make people hate the left.
Say the dumbest brain dead stuff imaginable. Yeah. I mean, nothing's stopping them. Here we go.
Bothered. I certainly didn't wish that it was shorter so that fewer people could live there. Much the opposite. If people didn't like it, they could just not apply to live there. Here's someone criticizing Griffintown in Montreal. I don't want to further encourage the building of $500,000 closets when we could be building 4-story plexes for reasonable rent. It sounds like you want smaller buildings with larger units and cheaper rents. Almost by definition, you won't be meeting demand.
That's just
says fucking who?
Yeah, right? Like, you're just making a complete assumption there.
Like 3 neighborhoods of 5-story buildings will be more housing than the 10 neighborhoods of 1-story housing.
Right. And I mean,
or your one neighborhood of 10-story housing.
Right.
But that's luxury.
But and there's also the point to be made that at a certain point, density does have a diminishing return on quality of life. You're then having more traffic. So unless you're beefing up your mass transit system at the same time, that's going to get more difficult.
And the elevator, you have to factor that into your commute. Like it adds 5 minutes to your commute. Yeah. And it's not well studied, but I looked up, like it was from the 80s. There's a compendium to answer the question of like what effects does tall living have on mental health and other quality of life concerns. And the conclusion was it really depends on a lot of different things. So they were polling different people on how they felt about their quality of life. And it really depended on were they a family with kids, then they don't want to be 20 stories up. Mm-hmm. Because the kids need a play area and an extra room isn't enough. And going down to the
20, 30
playground.
floors, yeah.
And when there's a playground next to the tower, because it's a tower in the park or something, but then the parents have to be down there with them.
Right.
It's not.
And then there's also 200 other kids who are wanting the same thing from the same building.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a middle ground, which is 5-story housing.
Yeah.
Just have like Paris works. Everything is like 8 stories. And in Washington, D.C., everything's capped at like 5-8 stories. And D.C. is really dense and has a lot of population. Uh-huh. Now, it has a lot of suburbs too, but it could have a ring of middle dense suburbs as well.
For sure.
Which it doesn't, because that's not the way it's played out. Yeah, it's just the and the whole like it's just the way our property system's like set up that you can't have true planning. It has to be like, well, if there's going to be a development in this 1-story neighborhood, it has to be 1 10-story building. But there is a rule from pattern language, which I don't think I've seen. No, I have seen it replicated in the kind of zoning code changes. Maybe it's been included, maybe it wasn't. Actually, maybe it was all in my head. This is from pattern language, which is you have a rule where you're only allowed you can build higher, but only 1 story higher than your highest neighbor. So what this does, though, is that over time, a neighborhood can get taller and denser, 1 building at a time. And I think it maybe not your neighbor, but maybe let's say on your block. Sure. You can go 1 story higher than the highest in your block. So someone goes 3 stories, and the next one can go 4, and the next one can go 5, and so on and so on.
So
and then let's say you cap
incremental,
and then you cap it at 10 or something.
Yeah.
And so it's an incremental change. So then it's not drastic at all. It is organic. It is based on, now, of course, people can say not 1 story higher. No, that 3-story thing is too far. It's against the character of the neighborhood, which will only be 2 stories, 2-floor houses.
Sure.
But that's where you get into like, well, you're being unreasonable. We need more, a few more units.
Right.
Just don't phrase it as, well, it's only going to be 1 3-story housing. It won't go higher than that. No, it's in the rules that it can go higher because so it will, or, based on demand.
Sure. Right. All right, let's continue on.
It's not abundant social housing accessible to everyone. It's cheap housing for a few, subject to my aesthetic and architectural preferences. Here's a small old apartment building in Kensington Market in Toronto. In 2019, a new owner tried to evict tenants to redevelop the property. However, a community land trust with $3 million of funding from the city bought it to maintain the 12 units as affordable housing. It was celebrated as a win. Community land trusts could help provide the affordable housing that we so desperately need. But none of the commentary that I saw covered how you get a spot here or how long the waitlist or lottery is. From digging on the website, you need to be a member of the Community Land Trust to hear about new availability. With only 12 units, though, I'm willing to bet that it's pretty hard to get a spot.
Come on. That's so lazy. I didn't hear any comments about waitlists and stuff, and I also didn't try to look into it myself.
No. Well, what he's really complaining about is in order to get accessible housing in this community, you have to be a member of the community. Okay. You can't just move in and take charge and get a piece. Get a piece of the action. You have to be part of it already. And this is exclusive, I guess. But it's like, yeah, it's exclusive to people in Kensington Market. Now, accessory to other Canadians, J-Reg was talking to the guy who does the channel About Here. And they were covering, as J-Reg does, political compasses. And he made a NIMBY-YIMBY left-right political compass chart, which, of course, is it's really bullshit. But as they're going around it, they're sort of talking about all the contradictions as well as trying to like talk about it in general.
Yeah.
And they both sort of they both admit that, like, and I guess because J-Reg, he actually maybe gave the game away. He lives in Kensington Market.
Oh my goodness.
And so he's like, I'm a NIMBY when it comes to Kensington Market. I want there being they both agree the land trust is great. And I covered this in my show, actually, I think at one point. But it's also a matter of the two things in play that, like, okay, the whole thing needs to be the land trust if it's all going to be affordable and saved. But beyond commoning, is that Kensington Market, like most Toronto neighborhoods, these are neighborhoods that ring the downtown. But as you can see here, they are not tall. Yeah. Now, they're not low density, but they're also not dense. They're not there really aren't actually a lot of apartment buildings. And it's been that way decade after decade because when there's any development that could come in, there's been resistance in the form of local control, grassroots. We don't want to get evicted. We don't want to get displaced by the market, right? So this is the solutions to stay put and to be NIMBYs because the alternative is being in the whims of the market.
Yeah.
People want to be socialists. They want to be communities, communes. And that goes for conservatives too. They don't like being in the whims of the market either. But within capitalism, the only way you can escape the market is to supersede it as capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
Capitalism works above the market economy, but it uses the market economy, exploits it. As the market exploits the level of communities. Really, we kind of, it's a funny point. Tell me if this sounds, if this is stupid or not, because I think it is. Every revolutionary is also a reactionary. Like we're dissatisfied by the status quo and we want to change it. That's if that's the only way you define a reactionary, but which I wouldn't.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
But that's how moderates think of it.
Sure. Wow. Moderates. All right. Well, I think we should move on.
This is affordable housing, but it's not accessible housing. That's not meant as a criticism of the community land trusts. With the resources they had,
to a market actor. It's not accessible to a market actor.
Right. Yeah. Good. Big distinction. Right.
Meaningfully helped a dozen households. But if we understand market housing through its price, we need to understand non-market housing through its waitlist or other allocation mechanism. A rent price of $850 sounds super exciting, but it doesn't mean much to people if they can't actually get a spot. Imagine that we could turn all of Kensington Market, 2,000 homes, into nonprofit housing under a community land trust. I'm willing to bet there'd still be a huge waitlist because Toronto fundamentally has a housing shortage and shifting housing off the market doesn't change that. If you want a short waitlist, you need to build a lot more housing here. But one of the community land trust's goals was maintenance of the historical built form of Kensington. So I'm not sure they'd support the level of construction required to build housing for everyone who wants to live here. You can think of left NIMBYism as a single-minded focus on price. New market rate housing is bad because it's expensive, ignoring how it takes pressure off older housing. Social housing is good because it's cheap, ignoring the often years-long waitlists or lotteries. My basic worry is that left NIMBYism creates a two-tiered housing system. The small amount of market housing you allow serves only the rich, and then some lucky low-income people get cheap apartments they can't give up or move away from. Everyone else, including the middle class, gets squeezed, but you don't necessarily notice because you've hidden the shortage behind long wait lists instead of high prices. Fundamentally, the only way to make housing broadly affordable and accessible.
So the big straw man here, or misunderstanding, is that only 2 of those 10 brackets are served by non-market housing. But our proposals, like in Austria, is that 60% are served by non-market housing. That there's enough non-market housing, or 60% of the existing housing stock is made non-market.
Yeah.
Then it would be accessible.
Right.
Because as we kind of keep having to repeat, we have 5 million empty homes and 1 million homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and this goes into a much larger issue of we have a housing shortage, but only in relation to where jobs are created. Right? We don't have a housing shortage. We have more. We have an abundance already. It's just that a lot of housing is built in bumfuck Colorado or bumfuck Oklahoma or in some other place where there were jobs 20 years ago and there aren't now.
Yeah.
They're all in LA, metro. They're all metro areas. So we are in a shortage of housing in Toronto because there's no jobs in Nova Scotia. Because we're not talking about the housing shortage in Quebec. We're not talking about the housing shortage in upstate New York. Because there's 1,000 empty farmhouses that are rotting. Now, what is the argument for this housing shortage when the market, capitalists, stop making new jobs? They got AI to cover all the new jobs they would need to create. Why do people need to live anywhere? For culture? For shopping?
Yeah.
With what money?
Well, true. Fair enough.
Anyway, getting ahead of myself. But it's essentially the system's breaking down in a number of ways. And it ain't just because of blue state regulations.
No, of course not.
It's larger contradictions in play, which newscasters and commentators just don't have the tools to consider, to even think about. They don't even have the vocabulary, it seems.
No, obviously not.
That's why they use we to refer to the government, or it's that baby brain.
Uh-huh. All right. Moving
The goal
on.
is to build enough of it relative to demand. That's the lens through which I judge all housing policy. It's why I'm more excited to see new social housing builds than old stock bought to be maintained as affordable housing. That's fine too. It insulates some people from the housing crisis. But new builds like this 194-unit building for low-income seniors actually materially reduce the shortage. Inclusionary zoning, mandating a certain percentage of units in private developments be affordable, is usually bad because it's like a tax on new housing that makes projects less viable. But it can work if governments are willing to provide subsidies or land. Rent control of the kind we have.
But he gives it all away there. It makes the new construction more unaffordable because there's not. It sounds like then there's not a demand to make,
i.e., less profitable.
Less profitable. So there's not the demand or the profit motive to make the low income housing. So
there's no low income housing bill.
You're right. Yeah. So he doesn't have an answer for that part.
Well, he sort of did. He mentioned, again, he says so much, but the new housing puts a downward pressure on the rents of older stock. This is the framing where affordable housing is just 50-year-old new housing. This ignores all the suburbs in my neighborhoods that are 50, 80 years old, and they're $300,000.
Yeah, right.
So fuck off.
Yeah, right.
Old suburban stock is not getting cheaper. It's getting more expensive.
Right. Yeah, he just kind of takes it as an article of faith.
Because again, there's no new housing going up in the suburbs unless it's these condos with garages, and and they themselves are also $400,000. So fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, really. All right, let's finish this up. We only got a couple of minutes left.
Have here in Quebec, capping big increases but exempting new buildings for 5 years provides tenant stability without, as far as I can tell, deterring rental construction. But fundamentally, it manages the symptoms of the housing crisis, not the cause. And it's impossible to fully insulate people. If you're enjoying far below market rent, it'll be difficult to move.
What we're observing is just that people aren't moving this year. It used to be in past years, maybe your apartment was too small, maybe it wasn't in good condition. You could potentially move somewhere else under better conditions, and that's really no longer the case.
If you want people to be able to easily move, we need to bring down market prices. That requires more than just rent regulation. You need to fundamentally change supply and demand dynamics. In short, you can't rent control your way out of a housing shortage. You can't inclusionary zone your way out of a housing shortage. You can build social housing your way out of a housing shortage, although it's a lot harder to do if you oppose market rate housing, because then governments or nonprofits have to fund all new housing construction instead of just some, and that's an enormous amount of money. Right-wing NIMBYs.
Because private money comes out of thin fucking air. The whole the problem with socialism is you run out of other people's money. Like, where did their money come from?
Yeah.
Idiot.
But just also,
they shit it out.
It is so much more expensive to deal with the problems of homelessness than having those people in houses. The medical expenses, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but the crime they're always complaining about. You save money by people stabilized and able to then contribute to your economy in one way or another.
Yeah, and we don't have to get into, but I mean, it kind of hits on what. Sometimes the complaint is these lefties aren't radical enough. They want to do reformism when really, if they really want to build their way, if they want to do the left-wing solution to this, you got to go full revolution.
Okay.
So,
sounds good.
Which is that option. Which is our take. Yeah. Underreaching is the usual issue, and it's how liberals or the left get bundled together, because so many lefties are just being realist and they go for a reformist platform.
Right.
Or it's because they're told about the reformist platform and they never learn that there could be a radical or a revolutionary option, or it's not. They don't see it in their daily lives, which of course they don't. We don't have a revolutionary organization that's doing a lot of stuff
out there putting this out.
And that's something to work on, of course.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Last minute.
Is bad, but it's legible. You don't want poor people, immigrants, or renters living near you. Gotcha. It's awful that you think it's the government's job to segregate society through housing, but at least I know what you're up to.
He's talking about right
NIMBYism is.
He's talking about what now?
Right NIMBYs. He was.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, you missed the sentence because I interjected, but he was basically saying I respect right NIMBYs because at least they're honest about that they just hate minorities. Left NIMBYs paper up their biases with the rhetoric of inclusion and justice, which of course again he's talking about liberals.
Yeah. Which fair enough, but
or posers, whatever.
Yeah, as if capitalism does not breed segregation. I'd say it pretty well does.
Segregation of class, but if you believe in meritocracy, that kind of segregation is good. People who deserve and earned more should get more.
Yeah,
that's meritocracy.
Yeah.
And it's unfair and unjust to want to have diverse neighborhoods where you have people who, or have more merit with people who don't have merit. And that's not fair.
Yeah.
How is that justice?
For sure. Yeah.
And there is a bit of a reactionary tinge that, that even most reasonable people go like, yeah, I don't want to be around a bunch of losers, addicts, the poor. I earn a living. I am working. I am, I'm struggling, but I'm not an addict. So, but at the same time, I overheard cool conversation between cashiers at the ghetto grocery store where they were repeating the kind of line in a different form of like, we have more in common with the homeless than the millionaires.
It's just a fact. Yeah.
Just in the form of like, we're working paycheck to paycheck. If something goes wrong, we could be homeless.
We're out. Yeah. We're never going to be Jeff Bezos or whatever.
So let's not give the homeless that are outside the grocery store too much shit.
Yeah. For sure.
Which they're maybe not. But so let's move on. We got a lot more to explore.
Right. So he's not going to wrap this up here.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Let's just finish.
Because it claims to support affordable, inclusive cities, but by blocking market rate housing for being too expensive, it makes housing more expensive. You can't say the market will only serve the rich when you create the conditions for that to be true. Supporting social or nonprofit housing is great, but that doesn't entail blocking other kinds. Supply and demand is not capitalist nonsense. Talk to anyone living in places with social programs. I support and appreciate subsidized daycare and universal healthcare here in Quebec, but if you have a shortage of spots or doctors, it hurts, even if it's not expressed as price. Shortages hurt no matter the system. Thanks for watching through to the end of the video.
So let's defund the system so it'll hurt even more and there'll be even more.
So a lot of comments loved that last line of shortages hurt no matter the system. Now, that's true. It's not a profound thought, though.
Right.
The thing is that every system, what he's implying, though, is that every system will have shortages.
Has to have a shortage, yes.
Or will.
Just cannot get around.
That's the realism.
Physical limits, yeah.
And that whole, like, we could have both. We could have capitalist and socialist housing. Except who has lobbied to stop socialist housing from ever being built?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, it's been neutral, and here's the other liberal lie, that there's a public will at work when it comes to what housing policy is, and that there's just certain interest groups that are just in the way, or maybe it's Jews.
Oh, geez, yeah. Every right-wing conspiracy.
Not they all go there, but it's like if you're. It's a similar kind of thing. Like there's just interest groups, homeowners associations, certain types of people.
Yep.
Even then, but let's stick to the systemic analysis and the structuralism. But people get annoyed if you go full structuralist because then you're cutting out individual responsibility or questions of like, well, who is really going to do maintenance and manage property? And the answer is the community land trust hires people.
Yeah, that's part of it.
In the same way a landlord does, but
you
cut out the middleman.
Sure. If
cut out the landlord.
You charge rent at all, you make it commiserate with upkeep for the building, and there you go. You have your built-in funding, which is still going to be far below market rate because there's no profit to be made. So
long as we have wage labor, of course. But again, that's one side of a multifaceted program.
Sure. All right, let's see what else we got here.
Which is also sort of why Mandami's platform doesn't thrill me, because it's like he's focusing on the things that people can understand, and that's what makes the campaign a winner. Yeah. But it's also limiting because, like, until there's a way of funding things that the city will do, it's not socialism.
Yeah.
Definitely. They'll still need real estate, capitalist real estate, to sign off.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't do that.
All right. Did you want to look at the eco-populism one next?
Yeah, the Green Party thing's fresh news.
Let's do it.
On Tuesday,
So this is Too Long Didn't Read the channel. They're going to have an ad 2 minutes in about their magazine, so heads up on that. You can skip it.
We can skip through that. All right, 1 second. I'm going to put the link in the chat.
And their last minute is always an ad for ground news, so you can cut it short when it hits a certain point. Their videos are much shorter than they appear. I kind of wish they kind of took 3 topics and then put them in the 1 10-minute video.
For sure. Why is it not moving over now? Oh, it's typing. That's why. There.
At 11 a.m., the Green Party of England and Wales announced the result of its leadership election. After a month-long campaign and a month-long voting period, Green members were presented with the choice between a continuity leadership team in Adrian Ramsey and Ellie Chowns, or a charismatic left-winger trying to emulate the success of Nigel Farage in Zach Polansky. This is the result of the contest.
Ellie Chowns and Adrian Ramsey, 3,705. And Zach Polansky, 20,411.
This means that Zach Polansky, a self-described eco-populist, is the new leader of the Greens, marking a political shift in the party. So in this video, we're going to outline what happened in the leadership election itself, the background of the new leader, and ultimately whether Polansky's eco-populism can build the Green Party into a stronger political force. Dive deeper into politics with our magazine, Too Long. Yes, we make a real physical magazine. In the latest issue, we're taking the link. It's a rather unique leadership structure. They allow 2 candidates to run on a joint ticket, with them becoming co-leaders if they win. If an individual opts out of this and instead runs for the leadership on their own, they then require 2 deputy leaders. The final list of candidates then consisted of a joint Adrian Ramsey-Ellie Chowns ticket and a single candidate Zach Polansky ticket. Let's have a look at each leadership contender in turn. Now, Ramsey and Chowns were very much viewed as the continuity candidates. Ramsey himself was the previous co-leader of the Greens. His leadership partner, Carla Denyer, opted not to run in this year's leadership election, instead opting to focus on being a constituency MP. She was elected to Parliament in the general election last year for the constituency of Bristol Central. Ramsey, instead of running on his own this time, opted to run with Ellie Chowns, a Green MP and former councillor. Both Ramsey and Chowns won their seat in the Commons from the Conservative Party, and during their leadership campaign, they argued that, as co-leaders, they'd be able to broaden the appeal of the Green Party to a wider coalition of voters, including former Conservatives. To do this, they remained more constrained on social policy, with Ramsey refusing to give a firm view on whether trans women are women, and also stating that individuals with transphobic opinions shouldn't be removed from the party as they have the right to express that view.
Ugh.
Additionally, part of their pitch to the membership was the fact that they both, unlike London Assembly member Polansky, had seats in the House of Commons. They claimed this would make their job as leader easier, and that the public and media would take the party more seriously if their leader had a seat in Parliament. When it came to other developments in politics, Ramsey and Chowns additionally claimed that the decision of Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana to start...
But it also means that the leaders have less time being MPs.
Indeed it does.
And I, for one, like the DNC chair... Party chairs, like the DNC chair, is not usually an elected person, maybe a formerly elected person, but they're not usually elected anymore. Like meaning they're not an office holder,
right?
Because it's a job.
Yeah,
it should be separate.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, like our co-chairs and the Greens or our steering committee aren't usually, or I don't think they've ever been, the people who've been elected as Greens, because. Again, who has the goddamn time? Because none of these things are paid full-time positions or careers. But things are weird in the UK, as you just observed. You have, obviously they're a wing that just got made really unpopular. Though I don't know what it takes to be a member of the UK Greens. Are these just people registered green, or are they paying dues and they're members that way? The numbers suggest, at least the voting numbers, was something around 25, right? So 25,000.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what's at that part.
All right. Oh, come on. There we go.
A new left-wing party blows Zach Polanski's leadership pitch out of the water. Ramsey explained that under his and Chown's leadership, the party would work with Corbyn and Sultana on areas in which they agree, but that they would uphold the Green Party's distinct identity. On the other side of the leadership election was Zach Polanski, who very clearly wanted to draw a dividing line between him and Ramsey and Chowns. For a start, Polanski isn't a long-standing Green Party member, nor does he advocate for more of the same style of leadership. Up until 2017, he was actually a member of the Lib Dems. The whole premise of his leadership pitch was that the Green Party could be doing so much better, and that the party needed to be more visible, less timid, and should learn from the communication style of Nigel Farage. This was a tacit criticism of the previous leadership, of which Ramsey was a part. While it's true that the party has grown significantly under him, Polanski seemed to think that being bolder, being more vocal in their criticism of Labour, and playing the social media game a bit more could significantly boost their profile and ultimately their power. Given the result of the leadership election, it seems that the Green membership agreed. Another of his tacit criticisms of his leadership opponents was his claim that having a single leader is preferable, and that the media had often found the two-leader setup of the Greens confusing. When it comes to his political leanings, Polanski's intention is to make the party appeal more to disaffected Labour voters and those on the left than widening the appeal of the party to more conservative-minded.
So what? This is a conversation I actually wanted to have like a serious discussion about.
Sure.
The dual leadership versus single leader. What do you think about? And by the way, this is the kind of matter-of-fact reporting that doesn't really go into context.
Sure.
But the whole, the media finds two leaders confusing.
That seems like a weak dodge or excuse. It's one or the other. You talk to one or the other. That's not really that complicated.
Right. And then they both count as a leader. And that, I get, is it the general public are too stupid to be able to associate two names at a time with a party?
I don't know. Can we just not understand hierarchies without a singular figure at the top? I don't know. It just seems odd. I don't think two is too many. I don't know.
It's odd because I don't think it's ever come up. So in the U.S. Greens also we just have co-chairs as a default. We don't have an and or. We don't, and this is also because, and this is a problem to me, we don't have elections for our leadership. We're so grassroots focused that it's just layers of reps. So counties appoint reps to the state level appoints reps to the steering and national level, the national committee.
Yeah.
The national committee includes the steering committee, but and that's sort of the executive. But I think the steering committee then elects the two co-chairs.
I see.
So it's a direct democracy kind of thing in that the groups doing the electing are never more than 50 people or the number in a room that you can get in a room or a Zoom call. This means it's not direct democracy in that a member of the Greens, but this is also based on the fact that it's a tyranny of the active because the Green Party doesn't have a membership.
Yeah.
The only official thing is the people registered, but that's meaningless. Technically, that is how we apportion representation. If you have people who are enough registered Greens in a county, that's what allows you to have one rep on the state level for every 1,000 registered, I think, which is kind of low because that means you get a lot of reps. But it's sort of like 1,000 registered Greens are supposed to. It's assumed that organically there will be one active person from those 1,000 voters, and that will create the base of representation. But that's not how it's worked. So it's sort of fallen apart. And I think if it was membership based, where it's dues, then that's a number that's more trackable. You can email blast 50 people, and those.
I see what you're saying.
Or in this case, 25,000 for the whole country. That's like the DSA membership, you know.
Sure.
For the DSA membership, I don't think they don't have direct elections for leadership either.
I'm not sure.
My chapter, we had a ranked choice ballot for our reps to the convention.
Sure.
Convention delegates, and I think convention delegates then elect leadership. Maybe. I don't think that came up. It was more like they were voting on resolutions and changes in policy, like, you know, how strongly anti-genocide are we, or to actually pull us in that direction. Which the fact there was a question, of course, but it's this question of like, well, how much do we want to be not the Dems? You know, we still have to be in a coalition with them, guys. That there'll be voices like that in the DSA. So it's like, well, we can't go full anti-Israel. We're in a coalition with liberals, imperialists, and I voted for the ones that were actually for, like, fuck the Dems. We want to split, but we know we don't have the infrastructure to do that yet.
Yeah.
But they put that yet on there. But it's like, well, we're not going to have that infrastructure unless we have independent campaigns, and we're doing that. Yeah. Which is my job. So that's
exciting people. Getting people in. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go with the rest of this. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. I don't have an opinion either way, but I could kind of see the argument that some would say, like, well, just having a single name to associate with the party. Because, well, in America, the layman associates the leader of the party with being the president or the person who is the front runner to be president.
Sure.
If say the other party is not in power or doesn't hold the presidency. Now this is really stupid because the leader of the party is really the chair of their, you know, the DNC or RNC.
Right.
It's not the president, but the president sets the tune and everything else.
Right.
But that just shows how unorganized our politics really are. It's so messy, and it's like people think democracy is messy. It's only because it's so fucking unorganized in America. It's just a bunch of social clubs, really.
Yeah.
And that's why if we start a party, it's like you're starting a social club first. But I'm okay with dual members because I imagine it's easier. It's not all in one person. You don't want it all in one person, and it also means that you can have, like with two heads of state, you have one that's really good at talking and going on.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
And then you have the other that's like a good administrator.
Yeah.
And you usually have to choose between one or the other because you're choosing between an extrovert and an introvert. And most legislators have to be both. They have to be glad handers and psychopaths when they're talking to people. But they also have to legislate and be smart.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's totally fine to have one be the style and the other the substance.
Yeah, most legislators are one or the other, or they have to be both all the time. So, and these are very special individuals that can do both. But most of the time, it actually, I think when we talk about most people in Congress are not legislating, they're not showing up for votes, they're not doing committee hearings. Those are special weekly events for them. They're otherwise on the phone with fundraisers. They're campaigning or they're doing other politicking, or for the sake of staying in their seat. They're not really legislating.
Right.
So they don't have to be good administrating.
That's fair.
They have to be a pretty face.
Stuff suit says the right thing at the right time.
I was literally feet away from my congressman at the picnic, but not picnic, but at the community event.
Sure.
I was feet away, and I'm just like, do I turn to him and do I say, stop funding the genocide, or Taco, you need to retire? Do I say something? Because if I say something, it has to be something that's attacking. It has to be
pointed.
Like a confrontation.
Sure.
But is this the time and place? I'm in line. I'm getting
why
my
not?
fish fry. Fuck.
Why should he get any peace?
He's right next to me.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Him on the back.
And I keep dropping the ball because I'm literally like in the same space with him all the time.
Like, I'm sure he's not going to listen to you anyway. But
that's the thing. It's like if there's an audience, but even when there is, then I'm also thinking like, well, I don't want to interrupt and be like, because it is cringe at the same time when you interrupt the proceedings. You're wasting everyone's time. People don't really want to be there. Yeah. And now you're making it take longer.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Because that's how I felt. That's how I felt at town meetings. So
sure.
I struggle. That's where I really struggle with the morality of things.
Not at all. It's tough. All right. Continuing on.
Voters. As a result of this positioning, Polanski has become more outspoken on social issues. For instance, in reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling in April that the legal definition of a woman is based on biology, Polanski stated that this is just more thinly veiled transphobia. The mask is off. Now, it's worth mentioning here that the Green Party is much more grassroots than other political parties. As such, we can't really discuss the leadership contenders' policies, as that's up to the membership to decide. What we can discuss, though, is the direction that they want to take. In contrast to Ramsey and Chounds, Polanski has been clear that he'd be very happy to...
But who's elected by the membership, I think you should discuss their policy positions, because what their positions are will be a representation of what the membership wants.
That's fair.
Like, that's who's being voted on.
Right.
He's this caster, like, is coming at it like bourgeois elections, in that people vote for the platforms based on the platforms that are presented by candidates. But being grassroots is the opposite. You have candidates who step up based on the platform that the membership want. The membership wants to fight transphobia in UK. They want more left-wing politics. They want an alliance with what Corbyn's doing. They don't want we want to work with him, but we still won't need to keep our own identity, which is that we're just an environmentalist party, and we're not
never really going to get anywhere.
We're not here to be anti-capitalist.
Yeah.
Though when he says he's eco-populist, that's kind of meaningless, but it comes from the fact that I wouldn't need to know more of this guy. But if he is from the Lib Dem party, then I guess he's not a socialist. So he's not going to, like, he's...
I wonder about that,
but
too.
It's right. But he's described as being more left-wing than the others.
Right, so is he just picking an alternative word that's more palatable than socialism to label himself? Or what's the strategy?
It could be, but looking at how popular Corbyn can be, why be afraid of the socialist word, the S word?
That's fair.
But so that's where I'm left with the conclusion that when people don't use the S word these days, and they're actually on the left or in a left party, then it must mean that they actually don't identify as a socialist, which could be a red flag in itself. I'm sorry, not a red flag, a yellow flag. Meaning they're more libertarian than socialist in the scale of libertarian socialism. Yeah. It would be a red flag if they were a socialist.
It's too bad red flag got that connotation.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, red meaning stop.
No, I get it. I get it. It's just,
The Canada's had a similar leadership fight between Theresa May, the only elected MP, who's moderate as far as we're concerned, and a guy who is a socialist, who is an eco-socialist. So he's representing that. But I think we'd have to look up a video about that with this because it was a year or so ago. But I think he narrowly lost that contest, or it was close, and I think he lost, which is why you haven't, there hasn't been any hay made of the Canadian Greens.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But he also he represented this left-wing turn that should be happening, but isn't quite.
It should be happening everywhere. Like, contrast has never been greater in my living memory. So yeah.
Because in Canada, they have parliamentary bourgeois democracy, yet it still seems to come down to a two-party system there somehow.
Yeah.
But this could just be because it's still first past the post. Well, in the UK and Europe, there is more proportional representation. It's not full PR, but it's pseudo PR.
Yeah.
So you still don't get a lot of seats because the Greens will pull 10%.
Sure. But
because of the math, they don't get 10% of the seats. They get like 3% of the seats.
Sure. But at least it's something. And the closer to democratic representation you have, the more chance these other ideas will have. All right. Continuing on.
To work with other left-wing parties, such as Corbyn and Sultana's new party, to challenge the establishment, although he did admit that this would ultimately be up to Green members. But will the newly crowned Polanski actually be able to improve the party's electoral chances? Well, YouGov polling from July shows that of those that say that they would consider voting Green, a majority think that the party should be a left-wing party, talking about economic and social issues rather than being just an environmentalist party talking about climate change. Additionally, almost twice as many of those who said that they would consider voting Green said that the party should have a single leader, and a whopping 78% said that they would support the Greens agreeing to an electoral pact with similarly minded parties. So it seems that on the fundamentals of his leadership, the public seem in tune with his ideas. However, Polanski doesn't have long to convince the public of his leadership. Green Party leadership terms only last 2 years, and as last year was a general election year, the previous co-leaders had their term extended. As such, Polanski's term has been reduced to a single year, meaning that in 2026 he'll need to go back to the Green Party membership to seek approval for a second term. The Green membership will likely want to see some signs of improvement in the polls under Zach Polanski if they are to extend his term. Under the leadership of Ramsay and Denyer, the Greens achieved more seats in Parliament and steady Westminster polling.
Or they're not stupid and they're like, well, he only had a year, so let's just give him another term.
I was gonna say, like, man, that's not a lot of time to move.
As literally a default of like, let's give him 3 years.
Sure.
Even if there's no improvement, let's give him the time.
I would do that. But yeah.
If I was a member, that's how I'd be thinking.
I agree.
With Polanski's whole leadership campaign being centred around improving this further, all eyes in the next year will be on whether Polanski can actually achieve this. Now, when you're diving into complicated topics such as this, it's quite easy to get caught.
I'm sensing the ground news commercial coming up, so I guess that's the end.
Yes, you're totally good. You got a nose for this, I guess.
I've heard.
Now, my in our local chapter, though she bounces around. Pippa was a leader of the Wales Greens, and so I'll ask her for her take on this recent event.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what she says.
Yes,
I'd like to know more. But I mean, man, what a world if we had any representation in national government.
One Green congressman can make a lot of difference. In the same way that like AOC was like, or Mandami. It's like, oh, this is a game changer. It's got to flip entirely how the DNC has to tackle everything. It's like, well, no, they don't actually have to change anything. It's just one city. It's not actually a big deal, really. It doesn't change the superstructure of how politics works in America.
For sure. But, I don't know. Just the idea of having someone up there.
Oh yeah.
To get more national recognition.
Well, I'm saying in relation to these Dems, these social Democrats who get elected or win primary. within the Democratic Party versus someone who actually is independent. Like to have someone like Bernie, but actually like oppositional. That's the difference. Oppositional.
Right.
And there's a question
Not
of
so
like, well, if
close
you're
to
oppositional, how do you get anything done? It's like, well, the point is to draw attention to all these issues in the same way that the Congress people who make headlines and get attention are the ones that are the most oppositional, not the ones that are just nice and getting their amendments passed.
Sure.
Doing right by their constituents by, pulling funding here and there, which is what my congressman does. So, which is why at every community event, he is everyone's friend, and no one heckles him. So
Brought home the pork, huh?
if I did heckle him, I might get a lot of dirty looks.
Get some blowback.
But from who or how, I'm not quite sure. So maybe that's something I have to test. But I think I want to have a base first. I think I want to know that if I make enemies by heckling our congressperson, any Democrat, that me and my fellows that like we won't be cast to the wind. Because I mean, technically we already are as far as being marginals is concerned.
Sure.
But I don't want to burn bridges before we even have any wood in front of us, or whatever kind of
way of putting it.
I
get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like I want to know I have something behind me as a leader before, or the members are like, before they do the heckling, which is where it's like, look, stop the heckling. We're not building anything from that because we don't have an org to attract people who are like, oh, I saw you heckle, I want to join you now. But we don't have a bait. We don't have we don't have our own shit yet. So we're getting there. Well, we're not getting there. We're starting that.
Cool.
And it's just going to be a lot of fucking outreach first, and then you fight. Not until you're ready. That's my mindset. You lose until you're ready. And to me, every time I don't heckle the congressman is a loss.
Sure.
But I lose until I'm ready to do it. And I'm ready to do it when it's me and literally half of the people out there are on my side.
Right.
Or a quarter. Or something.
They can't just run away or dismiss you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a fair way of putting it.
And then half of us are like, yeah, we don't want you around here anymore.
Yeah, right.
We don't need your grant money.
Make it sting.
We don't need to go to you hat in hand for federal money because guess what? They're cutting everything anyway.
Sure.
Because you're not fighting Trump. You're not fighting the Dems. They're cutting.
It's bringing home that pork, huh? That's always good.
Well, it's a little bit, something like that. But the pork is what lefty blacks would call colonialism. Financial literacy programs and entrepreneurship schools and job training.
Like seems like a solution, but it's just nothing. It's just a way to keep nonprofits afloat.
Yeah. And a lot of the nonprofit people kind of recognize this. They're really frustrated with how things work. And but they don't have an alternative because there is no political base for it. And so that's sort of that's what leads me to my project. And hopefully they join in once we start running candidates and win. I think that one win on the council level will, I think, shift. That will be breaking the dam. That will, break the siege. It will chart a path that others can go like, oh, there's something here. The Greens can be depended upon to elect people if they're backed. So it's really focusing on maybe just one council seat and drilling down until we win it.
Yeah, I think that's the best strategy.
I don't know if that would be my district or Center Square, because Center Square is where all the progressives are, but that's what makes the Dem primary there so competitive. And progressive doesn't mean left wing. And you have to do a lot of outreach there to because what happens there is that you kind of have like maybe a DSA person. There was a DSA person who was like running in that primary, but they got rat fucked by our current assembly person who essentially took over the local DSA chapter brought in a bunch of people, so she got the DSA endorsement. And since she was the most left-wing then endorsee in that primary, enough DSA, or maybe the people who joined for her, then become the base of canvassers. But then there was a lot of other DSAers then along for the ride, because she'll be the most progressive person in the assembly race, which she was. But to me, she's very boring as an assembly person. Very progressive, but in what not in ways that like change anything really. But it's kind of hard to critique someone who just got there and does a lot of good outreach, I guess. But it's just like, okay, but where's the rent control? Where's the big reforms? She's never been someone. Well, she wasn't in the council long enough to do any reforms. She was only on the council for 2 years. She jumped to this is where she's like gets the careerist credit to me, where she's just hopping offices. She's assembly now, and in 2 years she might be running for maybe not Senate, but
for sure
for something else. Maybe she'll replace Tonko. Run for Congress.
Who knows?
So we got more videos, and we still got a bit of time.
We got
why don't you
a little
pick?
over 20 minutes, so
Yeah, pick something.
Well, I'm gonna pick something shorter. Israelis should be shunned on campus. Norman Finkelstein versus Cornell West.
That one won't take long.
Okay, let's check it out.
Yeah.
There's something revolting about being, as Harvard kept writing, to be inclusive of child killers. I find that just an utterly revolting concept.
But
isn't it?
But we just different kind of brothers. We got different kind of temperaments, man. I don't believe in just. Look at it this way. Look at it this way.
Would you correct? The Harvard report had a very curious definition of anti-Semitism, and I'd like to read it to you. We define anti-Semitism as an identity-based bias that has kept Harvard affiliates with Israeli nationality or background from fully participating in Harvard's educational, co-curricular, or social life, which basically means if Jews or Israelis feel left out, then it's a form of anti-Semitism. And a large part of the report is devoted to this phenomenon they call shunning. So to give a couple of examples, I'm quoting, Israeli students reported feeling particularly targeted and ostracized, frequently experiencing social shunning. Accounts of social shunning emerged as one of the most alarming indicators of the breakdown of Harvard's on-campus community.
Man, like there's so much that could mean. Does that mean, well, they saw a pro-Palestine rally and they felt that they were being shunned because of that? Does that mean that they were saying awful things about Palestinians and people were like, ew, why are you talking that way? And it's from their perspective, they're being shunned.
Yeah, because they're not being praised or accepted as Israelis. If there's any negative connotation that is thrown out there that being Israeli is negative, that's shunning.
That's kind of what I'm assuming this is. I don't know.
We covered this because we've obviously covered the war, the genocide.
Yeah,
I've read the ADL reports where they talk about anti-Semitism on campus, and when an anti-Semitic incident is any time a Zionist is told to stop killing Palestinians, or stop
total conflation of
Zionism, or any protest by a Palestinian rights group, the existence of anything a Palestinian rights group does on campus, that counts as an anti-Semitic incident. So when the ADL says, look at this 700% increase in anti-Semitism on campus, That's what they're referring to. And it steams me in that here in New York, the Assembly, the Senate, and signed by the governor is requirement, or rather it's a paying for to put in every SUNY or state university campuses a officer. Damn, what was it called? It was basically like a diversity officer, but besides their title and what they're due, most of the backers of like this paying for this and legislating it were citing that the rise in anti-Semitism on campus and the need for such an officer to ensure that that campuses are not anti-Semitic and not and that that there's consequences for those who are anti-Semitic. Knowing that when they say anti-Semitic incident, they're referring to any criticism or action taken against Zionism or Israel, policy-wise or otherwise. And the only time in the ADL reporting where like there's actually violence, it's like a punch is thrown, and sure. I can imagine between Palestinians on campus with just a flag and some Zionist or Israeli comes up yelling in their face, screaming at them to go die.
Yeah.
Some punch will be thrown.
Sure.
And this is ethnic hatred.
But
it's politics. It is, but
it can't. It would have to then cut both ways. Like, why is it only bigotry?
Why isn't Islamophobia?
Yeah,
or Arab phobia? Like,
sure.
what do we have? What's the name for hatred against Arabs?
Yeah.
Oh wait, they're also Semites. So there is no name for it. But that's part of the erasure.
Maybe
that we don't have a term for hatred against Palestinians, which is to suggest that any hatred against Palestinians is earned because they're terrorists.
Yeah,
or they support terrorists.
I was gonna say maybe that's how they get the numbers up too. Is they count any anti-Palestinian stuff as also anti-Semitic stuff.
Well, that's not the report.
No,
the report does not treat Palestinians as they're non-people. They don't even factor it. It's all about Jews and Jewish feelings, which is how we get the convo about Adam Freeland's episode with Richie Torres, which I watched and found it pretty interesting in the dynamic at play. Don't have to go into it. We got this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We're going to criticize Cornel West in a bit.
Okay. I like Cornel West, but yeah, he's definitely not beyond things.
He's in the doghouse for me. Sorry.
For sure. Yeah.
Some Jewish students express sadness and frustration at feeling shunned and so forth. So I'm going to just give some context, and then we can go to the reaction. So if you look at the public opinion polls in Israel is probably the most polled place on God's earth. If you look at the public opinion polls, about 1/2 of Israeli Jews believe that the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, should commit genocide in Gaza. That's not an exaggeration. The question that was put to Israelis was very concrete and succinct. When the IDF enters a city, should it kill every single person in the city? 47% of Israeli Jews said yes to that question. Another question was, do you believe there are any innocents in Gaza? Any innocents? It was asked of Israelis across the board, including non-Jewish Israelis. 62% said there are no innocents in Gaza. If you factor away the non-Jewish respondents, it would come to about 70%. If you turn to Gaza now, Israel, for better or for worse, it has a citizen army. That means that army is representative of Israeli society. That army is carrying out a genocide. Every member of that army, E-V-E-R-Y, every member of that army is complicit in genocide. If it's not, as doctors have attested, if it's not targeting the skulls and chests of children, if it's not bombing the hospitals, bombing the schools, bombing any infrastructure in Gaza, the water and sanitation facilities, then they're involved in the systematic, methodical starvation, verging on famine of the people of Gaza. Now, when students, or I should say, when IDF soldiers come after their stint in the army to Harvard campus, or there are Jews who are publicly defending a real-time genocide broadcast across the social media, the bulk of the report's recommendations are, we must be inclusive. We must be pluralistic. We must embrace everyone. I say no. They should be shunned. They should be ostracized. You ought not to be inclusive of child killers. You lose me there. Nadine.
The only way that we can effectively prevent these tragedies and these catastrophes is try to engage with those people who have been perpetrators. I think that even a war criminal should be admitted to campus for purposes of truth-seeking.
I think what gets me is the opening of her statement, which is the only way we can deal with this.
Right? Is it we must engage? It's almost like.
What do you mean the only way? Like you only fight a war on the marketplace of ideas.
Exactly what I was gonna say. Like, come the fuck on! No, you engage with it by stopping funding to it. Like that's it. You say stop what you're doing, or we're gonna cut you off. And you politically beat the. By politically, I mean you curb stomp the defenders, or shun at the very least. It's not violent; it's civil disobedience. It's interesting that we could frame that the disengagement, the shunning, socially, is a form of civil disobedience. If it's the civil thing that the disobedience is civil. But if to be obedient is to include. Because that's what the establishment wants us to do. It wants us to treat Zionists and Israelis like everyone else, like they belong, like they are just they're included. And that's the establishment's line. And so when we don't do that, they're looking to criminalize that. Yeah. And even though it's nonviolent. Even though we're not beating anyone up on campus, and if somebody throws a punch, it's because it's an emotional fight, okay? And yes. I'm not considering that a strategy of a movement, or a tactic that's being used as a tactic, throwing a punch or right. It's like, would this lady be saying the same thing if we're talking about something that's clearly outside the Overton window? Like, is this how we defeat the KKK or defeat the Proud Boys or any of the, we just engage in conversation? No, most people would say no. Keep them out of campus. We don't want them here. They're going to make people feel horrible.
The way it's like complicating it is like, well, protesting Jews is like a pogrom because
of course
we are traumatized by the millennia of abuse and oppression. Some of it self-inflicted, but with that aside, so we deserve about 100 years or so of never being protested. You know, like it's triggering.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the Jewish feelings thing, where it's triggering to be protested because any protest against us is seen as existential. When really we're just being treated like everyone else, and that's actually a good thing for Jews.
Yeah.
That we're to be treated as equals in a civic nationalism, as Americans. That it's not okay for us to be ethnic nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one else is allowed to be ethnic nationalist, as they should be.
Should be.
It's about being fair, actually.
Right. But that's that double-edged sword of trying to merge Zionism and a Jewish identity. Is yes, you always have that shield that you can hold up any criticism of Israel, of Israeli soldiers, of anything to do with Israel, is conflated then as anti-Semitism. But then at the same time, you're feeding right into the right-wing framing of it and saying, yeah, they'll say, yes, look at all the things that the Israelis do, and you're going to say it's the same thing as the Jewish people, so this is why we must oppose both. And with the tide of a public opinion turning against Zionism, that risks, if we don't remove that conflation, that risks actually creating more anti-Semitism.
Which is Adam Friedman's like point to his emotional, bearing, vulnerability. Because some of us, it didn't take with me, and I don't know why, like me and other members of my family, it sort of did, but it's not like intense, but there's the conflation of like, we're Team Jew. It's not so much the ethnic, it is the ethnic identity more than the religious. But just we're Jews, so Jews are our people. So, and it's not I guess it's just the mind disease of partisanship, where if your side is doing something, it's justifiable.
It must be right, yeah.
Not that it's right, but it's justifiable.
Sure. Okay. Fair.
That's the distinction I'll make. Say with my brother, he believes it's justifiable, or it is something he'll justify, or any Zionist, liberal Zionist will justify. They won't say it's wrong, but what else do they got to do? Get killed? It's kill, be killed.
Right.
Because that's what we were taught about. That's how we were taught about the war. Is that like, the 7 Days War was just a pogrom on a national scale, that the Arabs wanted to kill us all. That it wasn't a matter of just changing the government and making it Palestinian, or that there would be some peace settlement where, guys, so you kind of wish they lost the 7 Day War or something, because then they would have to make concessions.
We concede some of that territory back.
At least territorially. But we see it as Team Jewish, so we won territory, and so it was a great victory. I don't know the exact age, but at some point, and again, I don't have the full language yet of colonialism and wokeness, or the imperialism, but I could like kind of understand that there was a contradiction, that like, wait, is Israel a Jewish state, which makes it theocratic, or is Jewish meaning our ethnicity, so it's an ethno state? Both of these things are bad.
Yeah, both are.
As an American,
not what you want to prop up, right?
So, as an American, these things are bad. So, why is it good for us? Or rather, it's good that we do have a theocracy, because it's sort of like my thinking at age 13 or 14, whatever, was I'm thinking in a hypothetical way. Like, well, I guess we should have like a theocratic Jewish state since other, like the Vatican exists. And we should have an ethno state because most other nation states are defined by some ethnicity. But this is me at age 13. By age 16, 17, I understand the world a bit better. And I know that most nation states are in fact pluralities. In fact, it's when a plurality nation state wants to be one ethnicity that genocide is the natural result.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me the Palestinians will have to get genocided because that was the natural result of treating Jews as an other, as not part of a plurality nation state, but an intruder on an ethno state. But what made Jews safe in France, Napoleonic France and beyond, or the understanding of Jews in France, was that France is a republic and it's a pluralistic society, and the nationalism of France is civic. That was the French Revolution was about. Citizenship based on being under the state. And it's not a matter of religion or ethnicity, which is why Algerians could be considered French. And the Guyanese are a French territory, not a French territory, they're a French state. But the Dreyfus Affair in the history of Zionism was this big fucking deal that showed or proved that Jews are not safe in France, that the civic nationalism was a lie, because it turns out when it comes down to war propaganda, Jews will be scapegoated. So we weren't safe. And that's what kickstarts Zionism. Or at least the narrative I'm told is that Zionism started with the Dreyfus Affair.
Okay.
Do you know of it?
I don't know of that one in particular, no.
After the defeat of the French by Northern Germany, or the New Germany, in the Franco-Prussian War.
Sure.
They lost badly. The fallout, the French Commune exists in the fallout of that. And you had a lot of Frenchmen looking for someone to blame. And so French elites said, why don't we blame Jews? So there was a French artillery officer, like Napoleon, named Dreyfus. And he was, if not framed, but accused of espionage. And, he's given secrets to the Germans because there are Jews in Germany and there are Jews in France. They must be they're not on the French team. They're on the Jewish team. Sure. And he's colluding with German Jews. So, and that was the case made against him in court. So he was convicted on this framing. But the thing is, sort of like the Rosenbergs, well, maybe he was a German. Maybe he was doing espionage. But making it about him being Jewish, and that's why the motivation,
making it intrinsic to
his criminality, or why he was didn't care about the French state, because Napoleon III doing a hell of a job, or maybe he wasn't in government anymore. I kind of forget now, but there's a reason that France is in its fifth republic. There's a lot of changes in government.
For sure. All right. We are coming up to the end here. I did want to see what Cornel West said, so I'm going to try and hold my comments till the very end, and then we'll wrap up.
For purposes of trying to prevent genocide in the future. And I don't believe that the effective way to do it is to shun, shame, or ostracize.
I'm asking you, Cornel, do you feel that those students are obliged to be inclusive of child killers? I'm curious, because I know you're very inclusive. Maybe your tent stretches from here to the other side of the galaxy. Do you believe that they should be inclusive of child killers?
Yeah, that's a hell of a way of characterizing it, though, because you see, part of the problem here, brother, is that, I mean, the history of religions, which has been, for the most part, the history of barbarism in terms of institutional religions, they have specialized in shunning people. And once you begin to shun, then the next step is dehumanization, subjugation, and you're just redoing the same cycle that you yourself were resisting from the very beginning. If we shunned every American who supported the extermination of indigenous peoples, there's not a whole lot of folk left in the history of the If we shun the majority of Americans who supported the enslavement of black people, the lynching of black people, Jim Crow and Jane Crow, who's left? That's a small group.
No, this is a rhetorical evasion.
No, it's not. I'm speaking directly to your question. I'm just not agreeing with you.
Would you cavort and carouse? Would you cavort and carouse with a child killer? I'm curious. I don't think that's a trivial question.
No.
You wouldn't.
No.
You would shun them, correct?
I would do more than shun, brother. I'd probably cuss them out and lose my Holy Ghost and kick their behind in the name of Jesus. But the point is, that's not normative. That's not the only model that I want everybody to proceed. I want to love my way through the darkness. I don't believe in shunning, even given the crimes that people commit. If you got a different view, that's cool. I'm with you. We in the same demonstrations. We go to jail together, and we have fascinating conversations on child killers and how do you respond to child killers. That's all. Is that direct?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not sure? Oh, I see.
This week it's...
All right.
So what'd you think of that interaction?
He definitely was being evasive. There's no question about it. Because personally, yeah, he admitted he would shun those people, and I think he's right to do so. Because by shunning them, you're not saying there's something necessarily intrinsic about you and your beliefs. It's just saying, as long as you feel this way, you're not welcome. You want to change? You want to be included? You're going to have to soften your beliefs. And there's been so many Jewish organizations, especially various Hasidic groups, that have joined in Palestinian protests, or Palestinian rallies, I should say, against Israel, and been welcomed in. They weren't shunned because they have compassion in their hearts, and it is evident.
And it doesn't have to be intrinsic. Like,
exactly,
restorative justice starts with the perpetrator admitting what they did was wrong,
right,
or at least coming forward with, I will take responsibility. Then inclusion begins.
Exactly. So
it's
that
just
door is always open.
It's not that inclusion can never happen or never happen with a child killer. It says a child killer has to say, I killed a child and it was wrong.
Exactly.
Then they could be included.
There's always a pathway to redemption. And that's the part.
And it's a deflection to make it kind of an all or nothing thing, which is what the people flanking Norman was doing. And the thing about West is I've listened to him a lot over the years, sometimes in person. And whenever he's asked a question, he actually does what he just did a lot. I think sometimes he's answering a little differently every time, so it doesn't seem like it's this canned, deflective response. But he does something similar too often. If I go through a backlog of West videos or lectures, or it's usually not a lecture, it's more usually a conversation. The way he will talk about things was just the way he talked about it there. The way when he's asked like a direct question, there'll be a bit of philosophical deflection.
Yep.
It'll just be done in a philosophic way but it'll come down to some kind of essentialism where it's like, well, of course, in the moment, I'm actually an asshole like I was with the Greens, but in theory, I want to love everybody and I want to build a coalition and I want this. But then when it comes to practice and organizing, I'm actually a petty little debutante. And indirectly, he's responsible for a bit, watering down our presidential campaign in 2024.
Just sowing chaos in the party.
And ingraining a belief that doesn't come up very often, but when it does, oh man, does it hurt. And it makes me very angry. A belief that Jill Stein is some opportunist who only shows up every now and then to run for office. And apparently, maybe it's not dependent on making money, but doing like seeing her as being performative.
Yeah.
And that the Green
votes and sell books.
And that the Green Party itself is a performative organization.
Right.
This hurts me deeply.
Yeah, for sure.
As it does anyone who's a Green. And I'll give you an example of when I encountered it, so you know what's hurting. I'm watching Hassan Piker, like you do, and he's commenting and denigrating Kamala Harris hawking her book, that her latest book about like why she lost, and or her next book, right? And how performative these Dems are that lose, her or Hillary, where they're so involved and they're so focused on the people, but they only show up in the public eye or the media to sell a book, to do public speaking engagements, which they're paid very handsomely for.
For sure. Ooh. We lost Dan there somehow. Just winding up.
Okay.
You don't know what happened there.
Okay. We finished the thought and we're done. This is what Hassan said. My heart, like, I don't know if I got, it was a mixture of depression and anger. He called what Kamala was doing Jill Stein coded.
Oh, man.
Like, she's the prototype for being a performative politician.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. That's because he doesn't mention Stein or the Greens at all, ever.
No.
But when he does, it's like this
very derisive,
insult.
Yeah.
And I can chalk that up to him never actually talking or having any interaction with Greens or Green Party, or not having Stein on. He had Marianne Wilson in his fucking house. Wouldn't have Stein in his house. I'm sure Stein would come to his house. Especially now. I mean, if he just...
Yeah, right.
Maybe Stein needs to reach out to him and say, like, hey, you mind if I come on your program? Give me a few hours. I'll tell you. I'll talk about everything. And you can chat, and we can bicker about leftist electoral strategy. Because again, it's just this constantness of like, if there really are socialists online, they'll hate everything. They'll be totally frustrated with the Dems, but they will not. They're just waiting for Superman as far as some new left formations concerned.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have like thinkers like Chris Catrone going like, to build a socialist party, we kind of do need to build a cult.
Mm.
You know, make socialism a religion, something that people believe in, that there are rituals, if not rituals, but there's practices.
Sure.
So being a socialist actually includes like commitments, as if joining the church, going to a meeting.
It's not a bad take. Yeah. I think it should be more integrated into people's lifestyles, not just something you do once in a while.
Or identify with.
Identify
with, which is worse. Because then your practice is a liberal. You're a liberal in practice, but you say you're a socialist.
For sure.
Which, again, as much money as Hassan Piker donates, it still is just that, charity.
Sure. All right. Well,
then again, he donates to unionization drives.
That's
true.
So
put that. It is more practice in that he's funding other practice.
That's true.
But unionization. Sorry. trade unionism is to me also a dead end. So
yeah, I mean, I think we can do it all at once, and I think we need to do it all at once.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think on that note, we'll have to wrap it up for tonight. Do appreciate you being on. This was fun as always. You know,
red, white.
Oh yeah,
red, white, and green.
Very nice. Love it. All right. Well, then I guess until next time. Yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks
yeah. Be well, man. And going in September, best weather of the year.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Fuck summer.
I wouldn't go that far. I love summer, but
all right.
But yeah, fall grows on me more every year.
Especially as it becomes summer in our latitude.
Especially as there's no difference. Yeah.
In our latitude. All right. Good
All
night.
Right. Good night. See ya. All right, folks. I'm gonna have to wrap it up over time. So thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. If you liked what you see, share it with a friend wherever you're seeing this right now, whether it's on the YouTube archives or Twitch, wherever you are finding this, share it with someone. And yeah, let's get some more dialogues going and stuff like that. But until next time, have a good one, everybody.